Welcome back to Me First with your host, Drew, the resident jokester with a heart of gold, and Amanda, optimistic space cadet who sees opportunity everywhere. We dive deep into everything from navigating love and family to crushing your business goals, all with a heaping helping of conversation and good humor. So make sure you subscribe and join the Me First fam. New episodes drop 3 weeks out of every month on the second, third, and fourth Thursday. Want to know more about a specific topic? Let us know in the comments. Man, I'm excited about today's topic, but before we jump in, how's your week been?
My week has been busy. How about your week?
Busy can be good, or busy can be good. Trash. Good or trash?
I'm gonna go. My week was good, not trash. Productive, productive. Lots of things to do. Work. Got some business things going on. Turns out,
business things.
Creating a podcast, amazing.
I just found out about this today.
That's great.
This is new for both of us.
I know, right? Here we are. Making it work. How's your week?
What kind of business stuff?
Oh, some t-shirt things. Helping the wife with her hair business. She puts me to work quite often. So.
Oh, nice. I'm glad she does, because that leaves her time to keep my locks twisted nice and
they look good.
Growing. My hair has just taken off. Main lockology.
The plug. She will get you looking right. All our hair is flowing. Looking good. Yeah. Yes. Nice. How about you? What's on your agenda?
The agenda. Man. Last week was a bit of a rough one. But it was a good week. I got a chance to reflect. I got a chance to do a little crying. Haven't done that in a while. Got a chance to do some recording that I had been procrastinating about. Funny enough, maybe I'll learn something today. Sure. Got a chance to be on a podcast. I recorded a podcast, which was great. And I was a guest there. So I have a couple that are coming out, which will be nice. And got my new dog, Okoye, getting her acclimated to the house. Okoye. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we named her.
Name. How'd you come up with the name?
So I wanted to name her something different. And Okoye is definitely different for the average dog name here in the States, right? And we were just kind of looking for dog names, girl dog names, and nothing was like sounding good. And then Katie, my wife, she said, she was like on some website, and she's like, what about Okoye, like the general from The Woman King? And I just started like calling her Okoye in the moment, and she wasn't answering to anything. Like, she wasn't answering to the name they told me was her name at the shelter, and she wasn't answering to any of the names we were trying out. Like, she just wasn't acknowledging them. And I said Okoye, and 3 different times when I said it, she.
Oh, nice.
So I was like, she likes it.
They gave her a name she didn't like. She's like, I'm not answering to this.
No, she was. They named her Lucy, and she's like totally not a Lucy. And
not
when
at all.
I would call her, she was just like, I ain't worried about you. Like, she just kind of keep walking and not pay attention. And so I was like, well, at least I get to rename her, because I didn't like the name for her. And so Okoye.
Nice. I like that name. It's different.
Yeah, me too. I've never. My last dog, I didn't get to name her because she had a name when I got her, and she definitely knew her name. And we had several other issues to overcome with her, so I wasn't really worried about trying to get her acclimated to a new name. So it's good. Nice. And I think I've had her just under 2, or maybe it's like 2 weeks today, maybe, that I've had her. So yeah, it was good.
Nice. She's adjusting well.
Yeah, she is. So she's like 2 years old. Mm-hmm. And so my last dog was an old dog, right? So she wasn't really worried about me anymore. Like, she was kind of like laying around doing her thing. And Okoye is she's still kind of puppyish, and if I stood in this room and just paced back and
Yeah.
forth for an hour, she would pace with me.
With
Like
you. Yes.
wherever I go, I turn around and she's there. Like I've tripped over her multiple times. I'm in the kitchen trying to cook, and she just like sneaks up behind me, and so I'm teaching her the barriers of each door in the
Yeah.
kitchen. And oh my gosh, and so she's adjusting well, but I think she has a little bit of separation anxiety, so kind of trying to work through that a little bit.
Nice. Nice. Well, good, good. Glad the week went well and Okoye is doing well.
Yeah,
Beautiful
she's good.
dog. Right. Right. Well, you spoke a little bit about destination. That will bring us to our
Don't worry. I
that
didn't
phone
even
call.
know I could
We
make
were
a
still
phone
on the
call.
phone, and so I was like, "Oh, probably should hang that up."
I didn't. That's why I couldn't hear well,
Oh, yeah, we were still
because
on the
and
phone.
then I heard the phone hang up, and I was like, my audio sounds so much better now.
Yeah,
And then I pushed a button on my headphones, and it tried to call you back. So
I
because I don't know
see.
how to
I
use my
see.
headphones.
No, that's
Yeah,
fine. Everything's fine.
it's it's all good.
It's all good. All right.
So what are we talking about today?
We are talking about procrastination. We're gonna
Mm.
unpack that thing. It's such a amazing topic. I happen to be a connoisseur of procrastination. I am extremely good at it.
You collect certain special types of procrastination, all the
Correct,
different
correct,
all the different
correct.
varieties.
I am yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's a good or bad thing, but now it works.
It
So,
works.
yeah.
Okay. Well,
It works.
I too have learned the skill, I'm going to call it, of procrastination. So I'm interested, very interested in this topic and the research you've done behind it, because I want to know more about why I do this to myself.
We are going to figure this thing out. Oh, procrastination is just it's one of those things, you know. I find myself often I'll have something pressing, like let's say, a t-shirt order that I need to turn in by the next day, and I watch TV and I'm like, oh man, Grey's Anatomy's on, this is on, and I'm like, man, and then here it is midnight, and I'm like, well, this is due at 8 a.m., so I better get started. And I have convinced
Oh
myself,
man.
I think that working under that level of pressure makes me better. I don't
Yes.
know how
Yes.
true that is, but that's the way I think.
My
So,
gosh, what kind of twisted thinking do we have? That's
yeah,
crazy. I
exactly.
love it.
So today, we're gonna dive into exactly what procrastination is. It really is just like, I don't know, like having a mind that's like really good at playing hide and seek from your responsibilities. You'll find anything that you possibly could do other than do what needs to be done. So again, as I said, I
Uh-huh.
have. Did you just
Bye-bye.
see that? You saw that picture
Wait,
fall down?
yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
It hates me today.
It's a nice picture.
It is a lovely picture that just does not seem to want to hang out up here. All right.
Wants to hang out, just not on the wall.
Yeah, clearly. But that's all good. That's all good. That's all good. So, in our topic of procrastination, do you have any maybe story that you like to share of a time procrastination worked in your favor?
Well, okay. Yes. Yes, I have a really good story actually, and it just popped into my head. I hadn't even thought that. Wow, that's so funny. I was gonna say real quickly that how you shared, like, people who procrastinate will find anything to do instead of the thing that they're supposed to be doing.
Sure.
I think it seems like, and we maybe we'll go over this, but it seems like that's proof that procrastination and laziness are in two completely separate boxes, right? Because
Absolutely.
procrastinating is not being lazy. It's not like I'm not willing to do anything. It's I have this big pressing thing that should be my main focus, but
Right.
instead I'm going to do these 17 other lower level things that for some reason give me some type of, I'm assuming, dopamine hit rather than doing the
Right.
thing. So,
Right.
yes, I do have a good procrastination story. So a lot of schools, when you're a senior in high school, you
Mhm.
have what's called your senior project.
Okay.
And
Remember
it's
those.
typically a project that takes either you get the assignment at like the beginning of the year or the beginning of third quarter if you're in 3 quarter schools or if your school had just 2 halves, but you get it either like halfway or at the beginning of the year, and it's typically due at the end of the year, and it's a big kind of like your high school dissertation, right?
Mhm.
Or whatever that might, to compare. And so we had this assignment, which was to take the country where you're from and do a like kind of like almost like a family history plus a history assignment and a report with a presentation on that country.
Mhm.
Now, there's a whole other side of it that maybe one day we can dig into in
Okay.
this podcast. But because, first off, I could have done it on the United States, but I think in that time, honestly, looking back, I had a little bit of a challenge because I was like, well, I assume that my roots are from Africa and I have no idea where from. So
Right.
which country there do I do, you know? So there was that whole thing. But I did not start my assignment. Didn't start it. My best friend, who is, she is not a procrastinator. She is like, plan it, time it out, do it exactly when you're supposed to do it, turn it in early. And she had been working on this assignment day and night, blah, 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 blah. She accidentally leaves the thing on the bench at the bus stop one day, like the day that she was going to turn it in,
Oh man.
which is, I think, like a week before they were due, and meltdown, like worst thing that could have ever happened. And of course, my great friend advice. Well, if you hadn't started it so early, you wouldn't have been able to leave it at the bus stop.
Excellent
So,
advice.
like, yeah, excellent advice. So, because I hadn't even started mine yet,
Right.
I'm like, you're already losing yours, and I haven't started mine. And so, I did this assignment. It had to be like 10 pages minimum, no more than 20 pages, had all kinds of sections, blah, 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 blah. I did my assignment. I might have started it 2 days before it was due, maybe. Turned it in. I got all of the accolades. I got like an A+ on it. Got all the things. Trina, my best friend, she had to redo her whole, and she could, she couldn't recreate
Right.
all the work that she had
Right.
put in all that time. But those kinds of scenarios,
Mhm.
to your question, are times I think when procrastination worked in my
Right.
favor and tricked my mind
Mhm.
into thinking that that's the way that I should work.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely. Totally agree. I think the same situation here. I can't say that I've really had experience where I've procrastinated and it really went poorly. So I haven't learned that that's not the way to do it because it always works in my favor. I'm just like, if I wait to the last minute, nail it every time. Even when even when I was in high school,
I
you
need
know?
need that pressure.
Exactly. The same thing. I'm like, oh yeah, I got a test. It's 50% of my final grade. I got this. Night before, morning before, 2 hours. I'm acing it every time. So
Yeah.
every time. So yeah, I haven't learned any lessons about procrastination being bad, but I know for some people, it doesn't work. I think it just kind of depends on the person. And there's multiple types of procrastination. You have the active procrastination where a person just intentionally is setting it, to the side and just saying, hey, I'm not going to focus on that for a variety of reasons. Maybe it could be fear, lack of confidence. And then you have passive, I think, more so has to do with if you're fearful, you're just kind of insecure, so make no decision
Mm-hmm.
at all. And I think I've
Mm-hmm.
struggled with both scenarios. There are some things that I'm just like, hey, I'm really just gonna watch TV right now because I don't want to deal with it. And a lot of times for me, it's stressful, it's anxiety that kind of kicks in, and so it's easier for me just to put that task down and just say, hey, I'm not gonna deal with it at all. TV is a much better option for me right now.
When you say, so that's
Mhm.
interesting. When you say that, okay, because I'm gonna try and be objective in this
Okay.
conversation and take myself out of maybe my procrastination, I don't know, roots. I used that word already today, but my norm, right? And kind of try and really learn from this. But So you just said that it can be from fear or anxiety. So my wife always will tell me, wouldn't you feel better if you got that thing out of the way and then it was no longer looming on you?
Mm.
Because, like, okay, now you're watching TV, and this is her talking to me, right?
Right.
You're watching TV to get your mind off of that thing that you say you're supposed to be doing, but you're still not calm and peaceful. You're still thinking about it, whether you want to be thinking
Right.
about it or not.
Right.
And she's always like, if you just did the thing, wouldn't that feel better? And I think logically, well, yeah,
Right.
of course it would. But there's something that says, but no, in this moment, I still think that I should take all of my pairs of shoes out and clean them instead. Right now, I think that's still the
Right.
best option for
Right.
me. So I wonder, like, I always wonder what that is.
I mean, that's a good question. For me, if I choose to step away from a task because it is a stressful type situation, when I walk away from it, I've mastered the art of just not thinking about it for that time. Now, when I'm done watching TV or doing whatever it is that I've decided to focus on, then that's kind of when it will kick in for me. But in the moment, I'm good
Yeah,
with being
yeah,
done with it. And I'm just like, well, I'm not going to worry about that. I'm going to watch TV. I'm going to scroll on TikTok, whatever the distraction is, I'm doing it. Um,
huh.
so I think if you've mastered that skill, you don't have that problem, and then it really the anxiety doesn't kick back up until you have to focus on it. And yeah, would it be much easier to probably get it done? But I think that's the procrastination problem. You just can't.
So you just said something that I never really thought
Mm-hmm.
about. So when I call myself procrastinating, I mean, I think there will be spans of moments. Like, so okay, so if I'm watching a 45-minute show
Mm-hmm.
instead of doing the thing I'm supposed to be doing, for those 45 minutes, as long as there's no commercials, I'm focused on that show. I'm not thinking about the thing.
Exactly.
But if there are commercials, yeah, I'm gonna be peppered in thinking I'm gonna be. I think for me it will. It'll pepper in each time there's a break from the thing that I've pushed my brain into
Right.
focusing on
Right.
instead. I'm gonna have that anxiety creep back up, and then the show comes back on and it subsides. There's a term that I heard, and it's executive dysfunction, and I wonder
Executive dysfunction or organized dysfunction.
executive is or what
What'd
dysfunction?
you say? Executive, right?
So I said
Okay,
executive
gotcha.
dysfunction. It's a, executive dysfunction is a behavioral symptom that describes any disruption in the brain's ability to organize thoughts, prioritize tasks, and make decisions. It can affect many aspects of daily life, including planning, motivation, multitasking, flexible thinking, monitoring performance, memory, self awareness, and detecting and correcting mistakes. I would be interested, and maybe we can dig into this in one of the future episodes. I would be interested in understanding where executive dysfunction connects in with
Mm.
procrastination. Are they one and the same, or does one sit under or on top of the other, or are they just two completely different
For sure.
things?
It's definitely something we can lock into. Dig in and see how that relates, how those things relate to each other. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure. All right. Well, I mean, on the topic of procrastination and kind of what that is, in the later topics we'll definitely get into um that doing some research there and figuring out how do we overcome the procrastination. In all my years, I haven't yet figured out how to really master it because it just seems to work, even though realistically it probably doesn't. It just seems to flow so easy for me now, and it's like waiting till the last minute. It's normal life for me. There are some
Mm-hmm.
situations, of course, where it's definitely not the best situation, particularly when, I have orders, if I'm doing t-shirt orders. I was thinking about a time I had a t-shirt order to do for a photography company, and I absolutely waited till the night before, and I burnt some product and I lost some shirts, and I'm trying to run around in the middle of the night to fix this stuff up so that I can get it in on time. And it's like, man, when you think about it, it's like, why didn't you just get it done? But I don't really have an answer as to why I didn't get it done. I'm just like, I just didn't. So, I'm curious myself to dig in as to the reasons why, this is such a
Yeah.
struggle, and that it's so difficult to kind of just reprogram your brain to, do things ahead of time.
Well, so one, I think that's a really good segue for us to just share with the audience. So on the Me First podcast, we have a structure that is really designed to help you understand, the topic. So we'll have a topic and we'll talk about the what, right? What is it? What are we talking about? What makes it the thing? And then we'll also in subsequent episodes dig into the why,
Right.
right? So why does it happen? And then on other episodes we'll dig into the
How can we combat and reprogram our brain to maybe change the path of procrastination?
Thank you for jumping in
Hey,
there.
no
Yeah,
problem.
so we'll have the why, the what, the why, and the how.
Yes.
And you can check the show notes. We'll also have journal topics, and we'll love to hear from you, sharing kind of what you're digging into and the journaling. And we are not psychologists or psychiatrists, so we're not always
Not at
going to be
all.
talking about something of that nature. We'll be talking about everything under the sun, from life to business to love to mental health, everything in between. So thanks for joining us, and we're excited to dig into this topic of the what behind
The
procrastination.
what? Absolutely. Do you feel like your environment plays a part into maybe how you move forward with projects, or if you procrastinate or hold off on things? For me, clutter and disorganization is a motivational killer for me.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I'm
yeah,
unable to kind of focus and structure my brain in the way that it should go if I just don't have I think a clear kind of workspace and opportunity to do the things I need to do.
yeah. No, I fully agree. I think there are times. So my office door is directly across from my bedroom
Mm,
door, and when I wake up in the morning, my office door will be open sometimes. And when I come out of my bedroom, and if I look and directly in, you can see my desk here, and then Katie's desk is there. If I come in and if I look in and my desk is a mess, it's very unmotivating for
yeah,
me. Like I think to myself, like, well, I can't do anything until I get that dealt with.
yeah,
Um, and then sometimes I'll think, okay, but I don't want to deal with that. So, well, I'm just going to leave and work somewhere else. Or
right,
I'm going to grab my laptop and work in the living room, which is not the best working environment for
yeah,
me personally. I prefer to I prefer to separate my working spaces. So that's a really good call out. And then the procrastination. So it's like the space isn't what it needs to be. So now I'm procrastinating on the things that I want to do, and procrastinating potentially on getting the space to where it needs to be, because, well, I don't feel like cleaning right now.
right,
So, and that space isn't like how I want it to be to do the thing. So yeah, that's an interesting conundrum.
yeah. It's definitely
Huh.
interesting how it affects your mind. I know for me, if my workspace is not clear, I will spend time moving things around, but I'm not really cleaning it. I'm just kind of picking things up and moving it around because that makes me feel better, even though the end result is it's really not clean. But yeah, I take things across the room. I'm like, I'll move this right here. That looks a little better. Okay. And it's still taking me away from the task that I really need to complete. But I'm like, oh, I got to do this too
Oh
because I
man.
can't really think if it looks like this, but I'm not really going to clean it. So it's going
Yeah.
to take me 3 days to get it done. So yeah, it's a it's
Oh
a it's a
man.
whole process
You are
that
not alone.
it's got to be
You
figured
are
out.
not
So
alone.
yeah, I'm
Oh
definitely
man.
curious about digging into the next episode and just kind of figuring out how can we reprogram the mind. That's super important to me. Again, I've struggled with this probably all my life. How to get through it, how to do things in advance, the benefit. I mean, the benefits of doing things in advance, but I don't know, it just doesn't register in the brain just yet on really taking
Yeah.
the intentional action to get it done in advance. Um, I mean, there are multiple
Yeah.
studies I think that people have done. Particularly with creatives, I think that procrastination definitely can lead to more success. Studies in the workplace that if you procrastinate just a little bit, that your productivity is a little bit better. So I feel like it's 10 points in the corner of
Mm.
procrastination.
I was gonna say, it seems like we're getting lots of tick marks for
Yeah, so I'm
procrastinating.
like,
I'm not
do
seeing
I
very
really need
many
to
for.
change this? Maybe not. Maybe not.
Well, I think that's really interesting that there are studies saying that, is it just like a generalization of like people who procrastinate get more done overall, or like what's the total
Yeah,
basis?
basically people who just a minimal amount of, like, it's not a huge amount of procrastination, but a minimal amount of procrastination can definitely lead to productivity. I looked at some studies that as far as like creatives, so artists, musicians, and also just corporate workspaces. They're like, allowed employees just the
Mm-hmm.
space to be able to just not have such pressing deadlines, and that in the end result, you'll get more productivity out of them. So I thought that was pretty interesting. I mean, I find that to be true when I'm at work. If I feel pressured, it stresses me. When if you just allow me to kind of go at my own pace and do my own thing, that it works better for me.
That's so funny that you say that about the workplace, because I agree. And did you hear about the whole Wells Fargo firing the mouse jigglers,
I did not.
aiming to attack fake work and other trends? Did you
No,
hear
I
about that?
didn't.
So this is a Forbes article, right? So Wells Fargo fired over a dozen employees last month after an internal investigation revealed workers were engaging in alleged unethical workplace practices involving simulation of keyboard activity, creating the impression of actual work.
Hmm.
So basically, the people who
Moving their mouse
because
around.
so there's yeah, moving the mouse around. So there's a couple of things around that, right? Like, one, I guess I'm assuming that some of these people were work from home, or even if they weren't.
Yeah.
I've had employees like literally hit me in Teams or in my past in Google Chat, being like, "Hey, sorry I was offline for so long. This is what I was doing,"
Mm-hmm.
or I had to use the restroom, or I dropped my lunch on the way back to my. And I'm like, okay, thanks. I didn't
Right.
even realize that you weren't. And I mean, you've worked with me. Like, you know that, like, I'll be in do not disturb for like 4 days straight
Right.
before I realize that, like, who who are these people that are micromanaging to the point that they're recognizing, like, oh, you haven't been available, and like,
Right.
I just would never
Yeah.
know if your work's getting done. I literally, I don't think I would
Yeah.
know.
Exactly.
um but there was, and I don't have any, I would have to look more deeply into this, and we could maybe dig in, but I heard, so take this with a grain of salt, but I heard that some of the people who were fired ended up they being some of the highest producing employees
Mm-hmm.
in
Right.
their
And it's like,
areas
what
of
sense does
work.
that make?
Yeah. Like, so they're stealing from the org, and it's like, well, it sounds like they were kind of
Yeah.
doing their job,
Exactly.
and so
Yeah.
there's a,
Well, there's
yeah, so
there
it's
is a
interesting.
control piece, I think, to procrastinators, as well as people who are a little bit more organized. And that sounds like that's more of a control piece than anything else, because if they're producing to the standard or exceeding, what would be the issue? What would be the complaint?
Well, exactly. And um I think you were sharing in your notes that there were some psychological studies that say that procrastination is linked to a preference for immediate
Right.
reward over long-term
Yeah.
goals. So people wait to do the thing, to do and execute a task until they're going to get the benefit from doing that task, which really, it sounds like a dopamine hit, which is going to be the attaboy, the kudos, the turning it in,
Right.
right? So, like, for instance, if we go back to my story, from high school, giving me an assignment at that time in my life, especially that's not due for like 3 or 5 months or something
Mm-hmm.
like that. For me, I am not getting any. I do. I like like instant
Right.
gratification. Right now, don't get me wrong. I can do delayed gratification. I There are several things in my life that I favor delayed gratification, but for the most part, I do like instant gratification when it comes to assignments and tasks and things along those lines. And so, giving me that task, me every time I work on it over the course of those 3 or 5 months or whatever it is, I'm not really getting
Right.
anything because for me, by that time, school was just about getting the grade.
Right.
Like I didn't really feel like I was really learning anything anymore
Right.
that was outside of like the social piece. After seventh grade, it kind of like I was like, I remember asking one of my teachers, I was like, I feel like we've repeated things since seventh grade. Is that like, am I? What's happening here? But that's a whole nother subject, right?
Right.
But I'm not getting anything until I turn it in and it's graded. So doing it early gives me no dopamine. It gives me no immediate reward. It gives me no pleasure.
Right. So essentially,
So
there's no
it's
incentive
just,
to do it in advance. Yeah.
yeah. And that's so that's something that James Clear talks about in his book Atomic Habits quite a
Mm-hmm.
bit, is designing the rewards throughout in order to reduce procrastination, and so kind of designing your own reward. So I wonder, I think that's probably something we can dig into. But man, this has been such a good topic, kind of learning about the what of
Yeah,
procrastination.
definitely.
And so in the next episode, you share, like, are we doing the how or the why? We're doing the why.
Yes. So we're going to dive into the reasons behind procrastination. That's going to be the
All
next
right.
episode. Yes.
All
All
right.
right, guys. Well, thank you for tuning in to our show today. We'd love to hear from you. Tell us about a time when procrastination paid off for you, when it caused some chaos, when it was a great thing, whatever you want to share. We'd be happy to hear it on the next episode. We're definitely going to dive deep into the reasons behind procrastination, and get some understanding about how it's impacting your life. Procrastination, as we talked about, is a common challenge. It can be managed. I think the mind can be reprogrammed at some point, but if it works for you, maybe we just go with it.
I want to hear the horror stories, guys. Share your procrastination stories.
Horror
They give me
stories.
joy.
They give me joy. So
Be
exciting.
motivation for me to get better, right?
So exciting.
Well, I'm going to challenge everybody who's listening. There's something you're supposed to be doing. Go do it.
Let's go.